Hello everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of our transformation process with nutrition data frame. So first of all, I have created this file day18.ipynb and I have written these simple codes. These are the codes which we require at the start of every session because we will make further transformation on behalf of it. So let me do a quick walkthrough of the code that I have written. So first of all, I will import pandas and numpy. Thereafter, I will read this nutrition data set and set the 0th column as my index column. Thereafter, I will set the index name as name and make the in-place parameter to be true so that the changes will be permanent. And finally, I will read the first 5 rows in our data frame. So this is my data frame. Our goal in this lecture will be to take the units that we isolated few lectures ago and merge them into the column levels here so that we don't completely disregard that information. Remember, the bigger purpose here is to get to a nutrition data frame that is all numeric. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the information on what the relevant units are because they are different across each column level here and they carry some information. The point here is we would prefer a numerical data set instead of this string that we have here. But at the same time, we don't want to lose track of the units because they are relevant to the interpretation of our data. Keeping this thing in mind, let's understand this line of code. We already understood this few sessions ago. So here what I am doing. So whatever value that I am having in this data set, first I am converting this entire data set into a string value. And then I am replacing all those values using the regex pattern. I am replacing all those values which are not a string with nothing. So all the numerical values that is here gets converted into nothing. And I'm keeping this regex parameter to be true. So let's run this code. Thereafter, let's see what I'm getting after running this code. Can you see? I am getting only the string part because all the numerical values get replaced with nothing. That's why I am only getting the units only here. That is the string part. Now, after that, we have done it before also. Let's do units.mode. So this thing will give me the most frequently occurring values in each one of the column. In each one of the column, I will get the most frequently occurring values. So let's run this. So I'm getting this thing. Now, let's save this thing into a variable called units so that we can use it further. Units is equal to, let's say, units.mode. So I'm saving this inside this variable. So from here, we will do the actual transformation. So we are starting the transformation process with a data frame that contains only the units. Remember, we prepared this a few lectures ago and we called it simply units. So at this point, we are ready to merge these units into the column names up here. So to do that, we use rename method, which we have learned in a previous session. As we saw, rename method expects a map of the old levels and the new one. So we need to create that map. And I will use a dictionary comprehension to build it. So the rename method will be our actual solution. But perhaps before we get to that, we would briefly familiarize ourselves with how to iterate our these units data frame. So I will take a quick diversion here. A data frame iteration. Let's see how to do a data frame iteration. Data frame iteration. Fine. Let's understand how to do this data frame iteration. To do this, I will simply do, let's add a few code cells here. So let's write a for loop for k in units print k. As soon as I do this and run my code, let's see what I'm getting. So we are getting back all the column names here, and that's a good start. But we are interested in the units associated with each column, right? Like here, this G is a unit, this MG is a unit, this MCG is a unit. So I'm interested in these units because I want to merge these units with these column names. Fine. So to do that, I could use square brackets. So let me copy this code from here and put it in a new cell down here. Let's put it here. We copy this here so that we just modified it. Instead of just printing this k, I will use square brackets to access the units associated with the level k. So let's write units and then square bracket k. Fine. Now, if I run this code, let's see what I'm getting. Let's run it. So let's take a look. It seems to be a big mess here. So what is happening here? Units k here returns a series containing a single value. Fine. And then our iteration here is printing a long sequence of series. Because remember, by saying units k, we are selecting one column from the data frame, but as we have seen before, that returns an entire series. So selecting index for a column or selecting a column from a data frame results in a series. We only want the single value in that series, not the entire thing with the name and the D type and all of that. So instead of the series object, we just want the single value it contains. So let's extract that. So the value will be under the first row index 0. So I just use the at indexer to select it. So let's use at indexer to select it. So let me first copy this code from here and put it here. Thereafter, let's just put dot at and this 0 thing here. Fine. And now let's run this code. We are outputting a long sequence of column labels as well as the associated labels. This seems to be a beautiful. So we now have the units we want. But notice there is a couple of gaps here, right? Like this calorie doesn't have a units. So it would be better if I just remove the column names entirely and we only print the units. So for doing that, what I need to do, just if I just want to print only the units, so simply this is very simple thing. I will simply remove this k from here. If I will remove this k, I will get only the units. And let's run this. Can you see? I'm getting only the units. Now the good thing is that these gaps are now very much obvious. You can see this gap, and many more gaps in between. So these gaps are very much obvious. So this is for nutritional factors that do not have units in our data set. Maybe you should simply exclude this entirely, and I'm going to do that in 2 steps. So let's see how I'm going to do. First, I'm going to replace all the empty values, these gaps, using the replace method. Whatever these gaps, these empty values is there. So let's first write it. I am writing this units dot replace and then I'm replacing this nothing, that is the gap, with np.nan. If I simply write this and run this, let's see what it is happening. Can you see I have replaced all the empty values with nan? So wherever there is no units, that get replaced with nan values. You can see it throughout the data frame in each one of the columns. After that, what I will do, I will drop all the columns that contains the nan values. So let's do it. So here only I will write drop na and put axis is equal to 1. Fine. If I write this, if I run this, let's see what I'm getting. Can you see? All the NaN values column get dropped by simply this. Now, I will save this in a variable called units. So let's save this. Fine. If I see units, let's see what I'm getting. I'm getting this thing. So if we now iterate again over the units and we print the units, we see that there is no gap anymore. So let's do it for, let's say, instead of writing it, let's copy this from, let's say, here and paste it. Let's run this. So can you see what I'm getting? There's no gap here right now. So we now have some clarity on how to iterate over the units data frame to get precisely what we want, the column levels and the corresponding units. We will apply this behind the scenes when we will build our mapper objects using a dictionary comprehension. Okay. We will build our mapper in the next session. So see you in the next session. Till then, keep learning, keep smiling.